Come on in, bestie. Welcome to Story Pod, where we do the doing of story development together. Brought to you by Creative BFF. Hello, and thank you for joining me for this podcast. My name is Ashley. Welcome back to the Story Pod. Today, I want to talk about frustrations. Not really frustrations, more so pet peeves. Not even more so, exactly pet peeves. So I was sliding through Reddit and I came across a question that just allowed me to unload many thoughts that I have been having over the years of being an avid reader of things that I see in specifically novels, books, but some things I have transcended to other forms of media. But specifically in novels and books, what do you see that is a pet peeve? And as I began to list more than one or two, I was like, you know what? I want to make this a little short podcast series. So the first one I want to talk about in this series, this limited series, is lip biting. And I want to give you a little bit of my backstory about why this could possibly give me the physical reaction that I have. Like, this is the only one on the list where I have an actual physical reaction of anger, irritation, and frustration, which sounds weird. Listen, I'm sorry. I'm a weird person sometimes. But I think that my what would I even call it? My sensitization. Did I say that right? The reason it irritates me, I think where it comes from is back in the day when I was a kid, a burger chain called Carl's Jr. decided to do marketing that was very sexualized, at least for the time, for burgers. And it was basically, the commercials would be a hot girl doing something hot, eating a burger in a hot way. And very often it would be, there's a lip bite because it's trying to be sensual and trying to cause arousal so that, you know, the viewer connects arousal and sex to eating this particular hamburger, which is, all right, it's weird. I guess it must have worked for a while, but I don't see their commercials anymore, probably because I don't watch TV, so I don't even know if they exist. But that, after I stopped seeing those commercials for many years, the irritation for that came back, I think, when I saw the first Twilight movie. Yes, I read the books. Listen, it was an era. Okay, don't judge me. Or maybe you loved the books, and so you're like, listen, Team Jacob, Team Edward. I was Team Jacob. But anyway, until he had that weird thing that happened at the end. But anyway, that's a story for another time. In the movie, now I don't remember if in the books there was a lot of lip biting. I wouldn't put it past the books to have a bunch of lip biting. But in the movie, there was so much angst, so much lip biting on the part of Bella. And it just began to enrage me for whatever reason. I'm using such strong language about my feelings. Very few things enrage me, and this was one of them. Not enraged. Listen, I'm not cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, but perhaps it was because I was maybe older than the age demographic. Not radically. I think it's probably, it's marketed towards, leaning towards, the audience is like teen girls, right? And I was out of my teens by the time that movie and that series came out. So it was just like all this teen angst, all this like, oh, I'm lip biting, oh, I can't handle it. It just irritated me. And so from then on, I noticed it more. I noticed it in the books that I would read, and specifically the romance novels that I would read. And I just developed a vendetta against lip biting. Now, my lip biting frustration, what I see in novels when I see lip biting, it's usually like a catch-all for a range of emotional reactions to whatever stimulus is happening in the book. So the first one obviously would be sensuality, arousal, flirtiness, attraction. Then I've also seen it where the character is being awkward or feeling awkward, maybe confusion. Then I would have seen, characters will bite their lips in order to keep themselves from laughing out loud or from saying something that they shouldn't. Maybe from anger, frustration, those kinds of emotions. So it really runs the gamut of uses in novels. And I find that in novels where the use of lip biting is most egregious, it feels not genuine, disingenuine. Is that the right word for that? It doesn't feel genuine, and it feels like a catch-all for too many emotions. And I guess also in real life, I feel like I don't really see people using that expression, I suppose it would be, as much. And so it doesn't feel to me, and this of course could be my own bias, to me it feels like not a natural or organic reaction to whatever the stimulus might be happening at the time that's causing the lip biting. So specifically, when it comes to using lip biting to signal arousal or flirtiness or sensuality, that's really the one that I have the most issue with. The other ones, it's like, okay, well, whatever, just don't overuse it. But the one relating to sensuality, I had to think, why do I have such a vendetta against using it to be flirty and sensual? And I think it's because it really feels manipulative to me. It feels falsely flirty. It feels like the person who's doing the lip biting, the character who's doing that, is trying to elicit an information, a reaction, trying to cause a reaction in a manipulative way. And that probably goes back to my history with the commercials, because that's really exactly what it was used for. It was to manipulate the audience into having a certain reaction and then connecting that reaction to the hamburger. And in this case, when I read it, it just feels gross to me. It makes my skin crawl. It doesn't feel like an appropriate response. It doesn't feel like a real response to, even being interested, feeling flirty, being, aroused or romantically inclined in that moment. And because I've seen it overused in books, at least in my estimation, now this is, of course, very much a personal preference thing, because I've seen it overused. And a lot of times now this is no shade, because listen, I love this category of, self-published books. I love that. But sometimes, and we have to admit that self-published works perhaps would benefit from an editor or from somebody to kind of help be like, okay, let's clean this up a little bit. Let's trim some fat, all of that kind of stuff. It kind of now cheapens it to me, cheapens an experience, especially if it's done a lot, literally, if it's done more than once in a book, a long book, I don't care how long it is, then it starts to feel, oh, this is going to be hard. Please forgive me for this in advance, because I can't think of another word, but it starts to feel a little bit amateurish. It starts to bring down in my mind the quality of the writing of the book. Now I'm judging the quality of, even if everything else was wonderful, now I'm judging it. And that's so harsh. And I'm so sorry. I apologize, especially if you use lip biting a lot, or if you really love to see a good lip bite in a book. I don't understand it, but listen, to each their own. So how would I beg and plead with writers, especially writers of romance and young adult fiction and those kind of things? where we're dealing with relationships with people, how would I beg you to avoid using lip biting? I would beg, first and foremost, not to use lip biting as a catch-all reaction for anything, just as because it also kind of feels lazy. It's like there's more genuine and actual physical reactions, that happen when you're having an interaction with a person or a situation other than lip biting. So what I would beg on bended knee is to put yourself in the situation. Now, maybe you're a lip biting girly or boy, whatever, and that's what you do, and that's how you flirt. No, okay. We'll put that right there, leave that right there on the table, okay? But think about, and even research, think about the other types of physical reactions that happen when you're in a moment of, flirtiness, arousal, or frustration, or you're trying to hold back laughter, or I was going to say frustration, your anger, but I already said that. Whatever the emotion may be, I feel like, and this could just be a feeling and I could be wrong, and let me know in the comments, that there's a cornucopia of other possible reactions that happen in the body or in the thought process, or, how one moves, other than lip biting, that I think would bring more natural, genuine, experience. I don't know how to end that sentence, that phrase, to this moment in your book. And if you maybe have a hard time thinking about other possible ways that you can react, that a person or a character could react. Also, side note, before I say that, think about your character. Now, if you're creating a falsely flirty, sensual, manipulative type of character, that would be a good use case for lip biting. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't even really hate the other uses of lip biting. It just is more of an irritation. It's like everybody's getting hit in the drive-by of my vendetta of lip biting, even if it was just to hold back laughter. But if it's an actual part of the characterization that you are developing for a particular character, then by all means, because hopefully that means that this is a habit and a character trait that you will eventually smooth out and work out over the course of the story. Because generally, being manipulative and false in that way is generally, I think, seen as not a positive trait. So that might be something that you are going to be walking your character through so that they can be a better person at the end of the story. If that's, what you want to do with the character, maybe they're a villain and they'll never change. I don't know. But if you are having some trouble figuring out different ways that someone may react to a specific situation, there is a great series of books, or thesauri, is that the plural of the thesaurus, that I like to use and that really help when I'm writing something. And the series is called Writers Helping Writers, and they have so many editions of different things like, negative trait thesaurus, positive trait thesaurus, so on and so forth. But they do have an edition of the book that is basically like an emotion thesaurus, and they go through different emotions and they kind of give you a lot of options for how that emotion might look, rather so that you don't have to, so you can still do the show and not tell, but it will give you more ideas about how to express a particular emotion or reaction other than lip biting. And I plead with you and I beg, please, it's a great investment. If you fall back too much on lip biting for every emotion, I would beg you, please look at that book. Or even if you don't want to buy that, we can just Google how do people respond or react in this situation? What are some physical things? And I'm sure Miss Google will be able to come up with a lot of options for you, or even Miss Chat GPT. Okay. So that is my rant about lip biting. That is a couple of tips. If you plan on indulging me and perhaps not using lip biting as a catch-all emotion, and of course, this is just my reaction to lip biting, and maybe you love it, and maybe your readers love it, and maybe it's just so hot and it gets the reaction that you want, and more power to you. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me for this pet peeves. I'm thinking about calling them petty peeves. I don't know, is that too cheesy? It might be, but maybe I'm cheesy and old now. So anyway, thank you so much. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you next time.